Hey everybody, it's Deborah here. I wanted to do a video discussing if we are the last generation before the return of Jesus Christ, first the rapture, the tribulation, and then the second coming, and if we are that generation. Many generations before have said that they are that generation, and you have 88 reasons Jesus is returning in 1988, things like that. I wanted to put forth some ideas as to why those other time periods didn't fit as they do now. And clearly that's been said throughout the ages, but there's some key reasons why right now is totally different than any other time before us. And so I wanted to dive into a few of those reasons. Some of the reasons you could say have been said before and have been possibilities before, but some are just not. And yeah, so I think there's some interesting points, and I hope it blesses you guys. So yeah, let's get into the video. So number 1, Saint Malachy Prophecies. So most people know that Saint Malachy, well, most people who are watching End Times know that Saint Malachy predicted that there would be 112 popes from his time. He had a vision and a prophecy of these popes, and they were correct when it comes to descriptions of which each one would be. I'm not going to go into great detail into any of these items, but you can research them on your own, but look into the Saint Malachy prophecies. And basically, he said that by the 112th pope, it would bring in basically the judgment of the world and, Jesus's return, basically the end times or the tribulation, that he would be the last pope. That's the key. The terrible judge would judge his people at that point, which would be God. So let's look at actually what Saint Malachy actually said. So he said, in the extreme persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit Peter the Roman, and that's who we have right now, Peter the Roman, and there's details why Peter the Roman fits Pope Francis right now, who will nourish the sheep in many tribulations. When they are finished, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people. The end. Now, again, he said there will be 112 popes from the time that he had his vision, and this is the 112th pope. So again, these are reasons why no other generation could be the last generation. If this is correct, this is the last pope, and it says he will bring the dreadful judge and he'll judge his people. The end. So again, these are things that can be disqualified as time passes, but as of now, they stand. So you can look more into those prophecies, but they have held up until now. And Peter the Roman does describe Pope Francis. Long story, he's named after another pope, and the reason why his name is actually what it is and where he's from, it's long details, but you can look into that yourself. So number 2 is Enoch's 70 Shepherds Prophecy. So the book of Enoch is, it's not part of the Bible, but it was found later on. And when it was found, it had so much supporting documentation to the Bible. Now, many people say it's not part of the canon for certain reasons. I'm not going to go into the book of Enoch, but I will say it had a prophecy in it about the 70 shepherds of Israel. And in this prophecy, it talks about all the different people who would lead Israel and stuff like that before 1948, like historical, long time. He went into all the different leaders and rulers, and then he went into 70 shepherds that would lead after a certain time period. And so, sorry, it's not 70 shepherds. He went into detail about 12 kings after 1948. My mistake. 70 shepherds were the total amount of leaders. And then he went into 12 kings that would lead after Israel was restored. So in the book of Enoch, you can read about this. And Benjamin Netanyahu is the 12th king. And it looked like it wasn't, the prophecy was going to be null and void. But let's look at it now. It says, finally, after the vision of the rulers, which totaled 58, Enoch foresaw that 12 more shepherds would arise to govern over Israel. Sadly, however, Enoch says that the final group of 12 will do more damage spiritually than all the other 58 knotheads. Okay, this is just a personal opinion someone's putting here before them. And I saw that man who wrote the book according to the command of the Lord till he opened that book concerning the destruction which those 12 last shepherds had wrought, and showed that they had destroyed much more than their predecessors. 1 Enoch 90:19. And the point is, after the 12 kings, there was no more. So he prophesied 70 shepherds, and then 12 kings. And now Benjamin Netanyahu would be the 12th if you count the different people, the different prime ministers running Israel since 1948. Benjamin Netanyahu would be the 12th. And it looked like this prophecy was going to be null and void, just like the Malachy Prophecy. There could be another pope after Pope Francis if this is not correct. But it didn't happen. Like, when they thought, it seemed like Benny Gantz was going to win over Benjamin Netanyahu, everybody's like, well, the Enoch 70 shepherds prophecy might be null and void, which it would kind of like disqualify or discredit the book of Enoch. But that has not happened. It's almost like it's keeping us on the edge of our seats, that it's about to happen and then it doesn't happen, that it doesn't get disproven. So that's number 2, why I believe we may be the final generation. And this is it, that all these things are coming to a head all at once. So that one is the Enoch 70 shepherds prophecy. Now, number 3, the fig tree prophecy, classic. And what it says is, we'll read it now. And it says, Mark 24:32, now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise, ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. The question is, what generation? It says, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Clearly, he's not talking to the disciples and their generation shall not pass. Their generation did pass. So there has to be a generation that does not pass before all these things are fulfilled. What is a generation? We read in the Bible. I believe it's in Psalms 90 that it talks about a generation as 70 or 80 years with strength. So I mean, we can use our common sense as well. How long do people live? Approximately about 80 years. So even in this very healthy time period, people can live to be 100, but in general, they live to be about 80. So certain generation will not pass. Now, the reason people tie it into Israel being born, 1948, and I'm preaching to the choir with a lot of people, they already know this, but let's just go over it, is that Israel is related to the fig tree and compared to the fig tree so many times. And he says, now learn a parable of the fig tree. And so he's talking about when it is born, that's the generation that will not pass. So let's look at one where Jesus curses the fig tree. He says, and on the morrow when they were come from Bethany, he was hungry, and seeing a fig tree afar off, having leaves, he came to it. He found nothing but leaves, for the time of figs was not yet. And Jesus answered and said unto it, no man eat fruit of thee hereafter or forever. And his disciples heard it. So when you look deeper into what he was talking about here, he's not just cursing a random innocent fig tree. He's saying he came from far off and saw that it looked like it was going to have fruit, but when he went closer, there was nothing there. And that was similar to how it was in his day with like the Pharisees, the Sadducees. There was no fruit in Israel. It appeared, it was whitewashed tombs to have fruit. So then in the next verse that compares Israel to the fig tree is the barren fig tree. And he told this parable, a man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came seeking fruit on it and found none. And he said to the vine dresser, look, for 3 years now I have come seeking fruit on this fig tree and find none. Cut it down. Why should it use up the ground? And he answered him, sir, let it alone this year until I dig around it and put on manure. Then if it should bear fruit next year, well and good. But if not, you can cut it down. Now, the 3-year period is something people have been thinking about for a long time, which is something that I'm thinking about in one way, but I won't get into now. But the thing is, again, he's saying there was no fruit on it, and he came seeking fruit, but there was nothing there. And he's like, tear it down. And he's like, give it some more time. So again, it's not just talking about a random fig tree. Many people believe it is referring to Israel. Going back to the fig tree prophecy, that would mean the time that Israel is reborn, that generation will see the Lord's second coming. So in total, we have that time period. So to me, that's still in play. That's number 3. Number 4, the gospel preached all around the world. Now, Jesus said, the gospel has to be preached all around the world before I return. That's something that's very possible due to technology, but I'd like to bring up this article. It's a very sad article, but it's worth mentioning. It says U.S. missionary killed by world's most isolated tribe. So this missionary, it was known back in 2018 that he went to this island to see the last unreached people not knowing the gospel. And as he got to the island, they did kill him, the islanders, as he was sharing the gospel, yelling to them, talking to them. He was killed, and they actually just killed him on the island. So it's a tragic story. But to me, it was like the minute I heard it, it just was like the gospel has been preached. This was the last unreached island. So to me, that has been fulfilled in our generation, not in 1988, not 200 years ago, not 1,000 years ago. It's now completed. So to me, that's number 4. Number 5, the mark of the beast. So to me, that is not something that could have been completely implemented until just recently, because even when it was invented, I believe the RFID chip technology was invented in the 70s. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was in the 70s and 70s or 80s, and the inventor ended up becoming a Christian. I did in my old channel a video on that, which is amazing. He became a Christian who invented the RFID chip, and he says don't take it. But the thing is, that technology wasn't fully able to be implemented. And as you can see, there's a large push so that it's not even like a big deal. There was this new movie that Brad Pitt actually just made, a space movie, where he takes the chip in the movie. He implements it in his hand. And again, it's always in the hand. And there's also possibility of, because the Bible said it'll be the hand or the forehead. There's other things where, there's been technology put in the forehead and the head. And so, but it's always in the hand. I think it's the right hand. I don't remember now which hand it is, but regardless, that technology is here now and it's being pushed, and it wasn't available before. This was not something that could have happened. So that's another reason why this could be the generation. In India, it is being pushed out like crazy. Look here, it says owners, drivers of over 2,600 vehicles penalized for RFID tag violations. Like when they don't have their chip, they are being penalized. And in India right now, from what I understand, the rupee is almost not used. Like people don't even use cash anymore. They are being chipped. Like look into it more, but there's a system and it goes involved with caste system, and many people are very poor, are dying, starving to death. I mean, it's like they're testing it out on like maybe a very, poor country. I don't know. All I know is India right now is like getting rid of the rupee and doing this method. And it says too many companies are implementing chips inside workers' bodies without privacy concern. And this is in, India Times. Again, you'll find so many Indian articles saying this chip is just it's just going, crazy here. And so I'm trying to read the article here, but either way, basically this is showing that this was not happening before up until now. These are things that, because the mark of the beast is going to be something where it says, we will worship, we will buy and sell, one currency. This is now. This wasn't before. It wasn't in 88. It wasn't 100 years ago. It wasn't 1,000 years ago. So these are things that really, it could happen later on in generations, but some of the prophecies show us that this is the generation. So that's something to think about. So then part of the same topic is the New World Order, because it's all related to the the one money. It says in Revelation that everybody will have to worship the one beast, as well as there'll be one currency. No one can buy or sell without this mark or whatever. And so this really does all go together, the one world government and stuff like that. This wasn't something that was happening before. There's been times when, like the European Union started, people were like, oh, here we go, it's starting. But you didn't have the RFID chip push together with that. And you have, the Pope and the Imam getting together and making, documents together, and fraternities or whatever, where they are agreeing it's one religion. We all come from one God. And then the Pope is going to launch a global education pact next year. And the date that he's launched, that everybody's meeting to do this educational pact, global, that's the key word, is on May 14th, 2020. So that's kind of crazy. Like, he's trying to get everybody together on Israel's birthday, and it's global. Everything is about globalism and one everything. And it's just something that, again, could happen in the future. Like, this could take another 100, 200 years. But when you pair it with the St. Malachy prophecies and the Enoch prophecies and the fig tree prophecy and a few other things, some things are time sensitive. This is not so much time sensitive, but it shows that we are completely set. And it is basically, it's here at the door. So now we're on to number 6. Knowledge increasing. So that is biblical, saying that knowledge will increase and information will go to and fro in the end of days. So we know that that is happening now, clearly. I mean, there was information age boosts in different time periods, but the ability to have things travel, and it's It's not as time sensitive because that, again, you can say could happen in the future, but it is happening now. And we'll just go to the Bible verse that talks about that. It says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." So we're just saying, he's just saying in the book of Daniel at that time, this is what you're going to see. It's people are going to run to and fro and knowledge increase. I mean, of course, that's happening now. I mean, more than ever. But again, it's not as time sensitive. That's something that, could happen in 100 years, not 100 probably, but like, 10 years, 20 years, it continue and grow even more so. But when you pair it, again, with time sensitive events, like I said, the Malachy prophecies, the Enoch prophecies, the fig tree prophecy, and my last number 7 is going to be time sensitive as well. So when you pair it with the mark of the beast technology, when you pair it with the gospel being preached on that last one unreached island, and with knowledge increasing in the to and fro and the one world government, and you put it all together, you see it does fall into place. And again, you pair the time sensitive events with the other ones, and you have a whole picture why we very, very possibly maybe this last generation. If you go by the fig tree prophecy, we are the last generation. The Enoch prophecy or the St. Malachy, we are. So let's go to number 7. Again, that's time sensitive, and it's the good old red heifer. And the red heifer has just turned, I believe, 1 year old in August. And the reason why this is time sensitive is it's related to, raising up the third temple, and the red heifer has to be 2 to be slaughtered, from what I understand, to bless the altar, and therefore that is time sensitive. It has to be 2 years old to start that. Now, nothing here the rapture of the church can happen at any point here, because it could happen and then the temple goes up within the tribulation, not immediately. The rapture happens, chaos happens, a 7-year treaty is signed with Israel, the temple starts getting built right away. And then you have, still 3 years of, well, 3.5 years, but if we're wording it that way, that you have 3.5 total years of peace, and then the Antichrist will sit in the temple. Now, the temple needs to be built because it says he will sit in the temple and call himself God. There is no third temple right now. So this red heifer is the 10th of red heifers ever in history, and it has no blemishes, no white hairs. It's good to go. So it is completely good to go at this point. So this is another time sensitive thing. I mean, and that's just 10 means completion. So that being the 10th red heifer in all of history, I mean, come on. So all I can say is when you pair the time sensitive events, like I said, the Malachy prophecy, the Enoch prophecy, the fig tree prophecy, and the red heifer, with the other ones that I mentioned, the gospel being preached, the mark of the beast, to and fro, the knowledge increasing, we are going to and fro, and the fact that the one world system is being set, you can see that it is a full picture of why we may be the last generation. Why we were not in 88. We were not 1,000 years ago. We were not, 100 years ago. And 100 years more would nullify all those other prophecies. If there's another 100 years to go, all those prophecies are now thrown out the window. Is that going to happen? I don't believe so, because the Malachy prophecies have been true up until now. The Enoch prophecies, the 70 shepherds, has been Enoch. The book of Enoch only supports the Bible. There are things that people have said could be fishy, but inevitably, if you do some research into it, it seems like a supportive document to the Bible, and therefore, and it's just been correct. So up until now, so if that goes out the window, that's a huge thing that's lost. So that's no longer in place. So let's just watch and wait and see. And if you're not saved, I'm asking you now, call to salvation, that you become saved, that you trust Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and you put your full trust in him now. And it says in the Bible that if you believe with your heart and confess with your mouth that he is Lord, then you will be saved. Everyone who calls in the name will be saved. Start walking in obedience to him and believe in him, and you are saved. It's just believing. It's your belief. It's your heart. So if you believe and confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is the Lord, you will be saved. And so you must do this before all these events happen and these prophecies expire and all this takes place. And if so, you will spend eternity in heaven with him. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a lot, and I will talk to you again soon. So God bless and shalom.